and pursue.
Yes.
No, every day I'm receiving proposal. Hey, we make 2,000 US a day. Hey, your life will never be the same. Trust I'm not sure that your life is never the same. Yagi is the same. Yeah. So, which is why we need to encourage people weekend. And this is very important why you have actually done this show. If anything is too good to be true, guys, let's be very careful. You can't change your life in a day. You change your life daily through the small things that you do every time. So now, makonmen kune ari kushandira pa road. Put ari kuchikisa ari kupinda WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
They're deadly. Hey, no, ritakanaka ndine ma USD tumira cash, tumira RTGS, and you'll never find that money. But usually when tumira mari, the next thing that account is bogus and you won't be able to find anything. So be careful about anything that looks too good to be true.
That's so true.
Yeah, because when uba.
And I said I might road, as you said, on social media even
you'll be
more.
shocked. When I want to think I'm a suit, so I want to what was here. And they're actually taking advantage of that fact.
Chiro vamwe vari kuvharirwa maaccounts avo unozona maaccounts akubuda tunhu vanenge vanzi ukatipa 3,000 hakuna. It's too good. There's nothing like that. Unokoti ndafa nemari.
True.
But let's get into what we're talking about today.
Self-care.
Self-care.
Something for a change. I know when they talk about self-care, but usually when they talk about self-care, they're talking about going for a massage. It's okay. It's fine. Going on a holiday, we take pictures. Oh, I love what you're doing in Umtare last time. Next time in there, on violence. They don't violence. Drink
Victoria Falls and recounting.
Yeah, I was actually in Falls on Saturday. We should go back in. So, I want us to take self-care to a different level. And I want to talk about 5 things that you actually need to work on as part of your self-care. We can learn to prioritize yourself. That's one of the things we need to stress. Learn to prioritize yourself. There's a video that has been circulating. We did this conversation on entitlement mindset. When people wake up every day, they think Mariago weekend Diago. We're also saying now, learn to prioritize yourself because you also deserve your own attention. And on Rwanda, we have been taught, and I think wrongly, that the moment you begin to look out for your own interests, look out for your own welfare, you're being selfish. I actually think it's very important for us to be positively selfish. In other words, you are doing it for your own good as well. When you're flying, last time we were in Swaziland, before you take off, they actually take you on some rituals so that they prepare you for anything that happens. But one of the things that they emphasize is if you're running out of oxygen, the oxygen masks are going to come down, and they emphasize the fundamental point that before helping the next person, ensure that your own mask is on first. Why? Because you won't be able to effectively help the next person if you've not helped yourself. You need to learn to take care of yourself. Because a number of times we neglect ourselves trying to take care of others. And eventually because of that, we even incapacitate ourselves from eventually being able to help the other people that we're trying to help. So what is it that you need to do? That it goes beyond the usual stuff, beyond your massages, beyond your holidays. Please go for holiday if you've never gone on holiday. Number one, we actually need to start working on our habits. It's part of self-care. Remember the point that we've always made, Vikende, you are the sum total of the habits that you've developed. So every day, the habits are what runs you. If you want to see how powerful a habit is, I want you for a moment to imagine when you wake up. Number one, you sleep on a particular side of bed, you don't even plan it. There is a certain way on fuga. For one fuga, I'm sorry, you don't even plan it. Next, habit. When you wake up, I want you to notice one thing. There's a particular way of bathing, that's a habit. There's a particular way that you brush your teeth, that's a habit. There's a particular way that you actually dress, those who wear shoes. There's a particular side that you actually put on shoes. Every time. You don't plan it. No, are not my habits. They are deadly. Habits speaks to patterns of behavior that become normal by virtue of repetition, which means you need to be very careful and watchful the patterns that you're developing. So at an individual level, you need to learn to actually be careful about the habits that you're choosing, because they can either make your life miserable or they can make your life worthwhile. Have you ever noticed that woman I can't anything that's negative? So that I'm my habits. That's why one of the things that I don't want, if you're in my circle weekend, if you hear anything negative about me, I don't want that.
Yeah.
To me, anything you know, that you know the uplifter. So I don't get excited when the news is negative. No, I don't. I get excited in the builder. So let's be watchful about our habits. We're actually in a conversation about self-sabotaging behaviors. And I think we actually talked about 5. Number 1, not accepting responsibility. Number 2, procrastination. Number 3, over planning. Number 3, not setting goals. Number 5, letting your emotions control you. Some of the habits that I want you to learn to actually review as part of your self-care. That becomes very, very important. And the next level, weekend, that I think is very important when it comes to self-care, is actually working on your mindset, how you think. A number of people, their lives are so miserable because of how they think.
Yeah, true.
So, ari ega, it's not a good sign. Maybe something bad is about to happen. Anyway, who told you if you are happy, it means something bad is going to come. Be careful how you think. In other words, control how you think. Why? Because how they've programmed their mindset. Which is why Solomon says in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, he says, be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts.
As a man thinketh.
As a man thinks,
so is
he.
Yeah.
In other words, every day when you wake up, you can frame your thoughts. Frame your mindset. This is where I want to go. We live in an environment where it's so easy to be negative. Because the factors, the prices, the indices, everything is pointing towards a particular direction. But this is what I'm saying. This is the right time for you to be firmly in control of how you're thinking. I'm not just going to be thinking like everyone. I'm going to think in a particular way that gives me the results. Remember the point that we always stress. No one is coming to change your life. Akuda. If you don't take the steering wheel, remember last week, butter steering. If you don't take the steering to steer your thinking in a particular direction, it's not going to happen magically. You have to be actively and practically in control of how I think, which is what I do every day. Remember, I have to be on air. I have to be coming with message, uplift. So do you know what? Before I actually come up with a message for you, the message is to speak to me. Before I say this, I actually have to interact with the message. I actually have to believe it. I actually have to convince myself. You see, so I'll never tell you something that I'm not using. Because I've realized the power of mindset. I've realized the power that the moment I'm firmly in control of how I think, no matter how much you don't like me, but as long as I'm in control of how I think,
yeah.
That's why I'm not moved in my funny comments on social media. No, I'm not. Hey, I don't reply. If you're actually wasting your time on the I don't reply. I don't reply. Do you know why?
Yeah.
Because I actually make it a point with anything some story is not value to delete. Do you know why? I'm protecting my sanity. I'm protecting how I think. I'm protecting how I think. Why? Because the engine, that's where everything is processed. So be careful what you let into your mind. Be careful who you allow to have an interaction with your mind. Which is why the circle that you keep is very important. Tambo nevano uti makuseni mega vari kuposta zviri samari kwete kuposta maskandal aningi marriage azokolapsa akazobatwa ari padonyangara zvikazodai aiwa postawo zvinosimudza vamwe. That's why certain numbers I don't save. If you're systematically negative, I don't save your number. I don't want to see your status. I save my numbers. These people are systematically positive. Why? Because it has an effect. It's contagious. So, protect your mindset. And this is a critical element of self-care. Realizing that, I'm going to be in trouble. So, number 1, we need to work on our habits. Number 2, let's work on how we think. Because your life goes in the direction of your thoughts. You are what you think. And point number 3, again. You actually need to work on healing from the past. Very, very important. Men are dogs. Men are dogs.
And specify kuti ningi opa address ye
No, not everyone is a dog. Men are dogs. You know what? When we talk about mindset, there's a guy who went viral. That was Malume.
Yes, Malume.
I noticed one thing. What I don't meet a viral because of that. But for me, that guy is inspirational.
Yes.
We're talking about mindset. Malume starts something. I respect him for one thing: the discipline to finish. Atina, the discipline to finish. And I love one thing. Malume. You need those people, my cheerleaders, who are right, Sterek. So of course this is out no game competition. So I want you to realize one thing. You don't necessarily need a lot of people to support you.
Yeah.
But you need just those few people to believe in you.
And the right voices.
The right voices.
You,
to encourage you. You need that. You don't need a million people to say you can do it. You just need 1, 2, 3 people who are actually having fun and enjoying with you whilst you are doing what you're doing. All right, step 2. Yeah, pick up my Step 3. Step 3 is healing from your past.
Yeah.
Weekend, the Tinaman account right now, they look sharp, but they've not healed. They've not. And as a matter of fact, weekend, never judge a person by how they look.
So true.
Looks are deceiving. Looks are deceiving. Weekend, unfortunately, it's very difficult because the real person happens the moment they lock the door. As very egg. Because people are fighting issues wherever they are, regardless of who they are.
Yeah.
People have issues, and the number of people they've been hurt, and they've been hurt badly, which is why can one be to hate in a relationship also chance another person to heal. And this is so selfish. You're going to hey no this guy has healed me a number of times, no for but and the next thing, if we don't heal, we end up actually hurting people. That's why we actually need to set a goal like healing from the past. A number of people, they came from relationships where I got one teaser, like the way they were treated. So a number of times we actually need not my voice. So a number of times we actually need to deliberately work on healing. We are raised differently. Some people they were abused as they were growing up. And every time you're actually meeting and interacting with people that have hurt you. And we can never stand the courage you apologize. Who are so arrogant. They actually believe that abusing you as they were abusing you, they were doing you a favor. One of the weekend, I know Torah in my cousin, I can't potential into a mate instead of helping that person, and that person eventually somehow is able to actually change their own lives. No patriotism, if you are going through something, you actually need to work on healing. We don't know how you were hurt, but somehow you were actually hurt. You need to work on healing. They often say that best revenge is success. No, the best revenge is not success. The best thing that you need to do is simply to heal and move on.
Yeah.
Because we operate in a society that is revenge driven. We do things not because we want to do them, we do things because we want to prove a point. And at the end of the day, guess what? We live an empty life. Don't do things for people. You need to get help. If you can't do it on your own, talk to someone you can trust. And by the way, it's not everyone you should trust. I don't know about your problems. And 30 minutes later on, you're like, guys, people are suffering. So it's not everyone. You do with people, but status. So it's not everyone who really actually needs to know what's happening. But
true.
Also we need the wisdom, need discernment to know this is a megaphone. Uyo is really genuinely interested in helping me. But for me, I think many people, we need to set a goal, healing. Right now, a number of people are listening to us. My issues, and some issues, about 60 years, and my issues. Vakaremerwa. Apana chinhu chakaoma sokupa vanhu rent musoro mako for free. Don't.
And you're giving that person so much power.
You're giving them power
to control
over
your
life.
mood, to control just your entire life. Yeah.
So right now, a number of people, just because they want to fix you. We have issues. Some of the issues, they come from people who are even close to us. And peaceful. And you even wonder so guys, we need to prioritize our own healing. It's very, very important. And if you can't do it on your own, get people who can actually assist you in that process. And the next thing that we want to stress as part of self-care weekend is detoxification of your life. And I'll tell you this. I'm sorry to say this. we are part of the group here that are toxic. Yes, Zimbabweans. We're very toxic. No, but guys, you need to be able to identify masecos that are toxic. Pane masecos that I will 2 minutes or water. Learn to remove yourself from places and platforms where people are the subject. Learn to put yourself in an environment where people discuss ideas. Learn to put yourself from places where if you're on the table, you're on the menu, not on the table. Because a number of times I don't want a menu item, I don't want an agenda item. They don't see you as part of the table. We need to be careful about toxicity. Be careful about toxicity. So I was speaking in Big Falls on Saturday. They asked me a very interesting question. Which books have you been reading? Weekendly, the most interesting place that I've managed to find information, which has really inspired me, is Twitter. And can I tell you one thing about Twitter? Ukaenda right now on Twitter, Zimbabwe, mune vanhu vane hasha.
Yeah.
Proper hasha. Vanotukana munhu wasingazivi. Vanokutsvagira mapicha ako, they will harass you. But in certain places, that very same platform, they should for better discussions, better conversation. They're talking business. They're talking opportunities. They're talking about self-growth, self-transformation. No, but let's put ourselves in an environment where toxicity is not an issue. Let's identify those places that are toxic. Put yourself out. Remove yourself from those toxic places because you need to protect how you think. Then learn to identify my toxic conversations and my toxic numbers. Inini, if your habit is just to phone out complain about people and look for it, no, I don't. Do you know one tropesa vengeso one very innocent just because of certain people?
Blue Twitter.
I know blue Twitter. The next thing they want to recruit you to hate a person as well. If you're not careful, you end up not talking to people. Simply because someone came into your life, because you've got some form of an association, they actually expect you to hate that person. But guys, this is the point. Weekend. The mere fact that you don't like Louis here does not mean you don't for a woman. Your enemies don't necessarily have to be my enemies. They can be your enemies, but for me, they can be amazing friends. Because I don't have an obligation, you could blow to my feelings. Learn to treat people as an individual. Can I interact on a low way? I read. Can I matters run? It's up to you. You know, Basra issue, you don't make more enemies. You need to learn to make more friends. So remove yourself from toxic places, toxic people, and toxic thoughts. And step number 5, which I think is very important as part of self-care, is learn to live intentionally, live a purposeful life. What's your purpose? Remember we talked about last time that the tragedy of life is not that people die, it's what dies inside a person while he lives. A number of people we wake up every day to drive a motor, but we're dead on the inside. A number of people to slay up on Instagram, but we're not doing it for ourselves, but we're dead on the inside. Work on connecting with yourself. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my unique purpose on earth? How can I serve it? And how can I use my life to be a blessing to other people? Once we begin to be intentional, purposeful, and conscious, we begin to live a life of impact. When our Kawanda, they've got the following, they've got the numbers, but they're not living a life of impact. Why? Because when we lose purpose, everything becomes meaningless. Let's go back to meaningful lives.
Oh, thank you so much, Advocate Marara. Self-care. I hope you were taking notes as I was. How can people reach you, Advocate?
All right. So I've created platforms where you can now be part of our closed groups. 078 00 55152. 078 00 55152. Please don't say hi. Just send a number to that message and should be part and parcel when we get to post these messages and get to encourage each other. We can be here, listen.
Thank you so much. Star FM sounding good all the time. It is 10 o'clock time.